So today I wanted to make a video to show everybody what it's like being in an actual upper cervical office and how do you know you're in an upper cervical specific chiropractic office. So what is upper cervical chiropractic? Upper cervical chiropractic is a specialty within the chiropractic field that generally focuses on the top two bones in the neck, the atlas and the axis. Now these two bones weigh a couple ounces and they support your head that weighs 10 to 13 pounds given on the person. And there's no disc space here to stabilize this area. So it's a very vulnerable area with the most neurological significance. Every nerve in your body passes through this opening right here. So it's very important that it's in alignment, because when this is in alignment, you get 100% nerve flow and blood flow back and the body begins to heal. Now, one of the common themes in all upper cervical techniques is we all say holding is healing. So our goal is to do as very few adjustments in this area as possible, have it hold in place so you get 100% nerve flow and blood flow back to this area and the body begins to heal. Now this doesn't always happen, each case is different, but your upper cervical chiropractor should definitely be explaining to you holding is healing, because there are times when your neck is in alignment and you won't need an adjustment that day, because everything's already in place and we want to keep the nerve flow and blood flow where it is because it's already perfect. If you got an adjustment that day, it would ruin everything because everything's already in place. We want to keep that area intact. So your upper cervical chiropractor should definitely be explaining to you holding your adjustments and not holding your adjustments. So another common theme that the upper cervical techniques use is a neurological leg check. Now how we do this is different for each technique, but most upper cervical doctors always use a neurological leg check to show if the person is in alignment or out of alignment, what we were just talking about with holding. So one of the legs will be shorter than the other if the person is not in alignment, and there are also additional testing to show which segment in the neck is in or out of alignment. So it's a really good tool to see if that person needs an adjustment or not. So we're just going to demonstrate the way we do our leg checks here. And like I said, sometimes upper cervical doctors will have the patient go face down. Other techniques will have the face up. It really doesn't matter as long as they are doing the neurological leg check. So it's a very gentle leg check. We're just trying to see if it's neurological or muscular. So it's the patient in our office always goes face down, and we are just measuring the leg length to see if it's in or out of alignment, and it could be slightly millimeters or it could be very off, or if it's balanced, everything is in alignment and that person will not receive an adjustment today. So each one of these tests correlates with a different bone in the neck. Maria, can I have you gently lift your legs up and relax? Toes together. Legs together. Good. Legs apart. Good. All right, that is just an example of how we do the leg checks in our office. Maria is perfectly balanced. She doesn't need an adjustment today. Her legs are balanced. If she was out, one leg would be shorter. And like, as I stated before, there's different ways to do these leg checks. As long as the upper cervical doctor is doing these leg checks, you are in good hands. Another commonality in upper cervical chiropractic is a thermographic neck scan. All upper cervical chiropractors usually use this across the board with all the techniques because it measures nerve interference. It tells us where there's excessive heat in the neck, and it develops a pattern over time to help the doctor determine if that person is in or out of alignment. So it's very simple. It looks like this. This is a Titron scanner. Other doctors may have a different model or different company, but it's a great tool to help measure nerve interference because, like I said before, we want to know if that person is in or out of alignment, and this tool helps us do so. So we are going to be just performing an example of what a Titron neck scan looks like. Oops. So the person holds their hair up. Okay, Maria, put your arm down by your side. The scanner rolls up the neck. And it's just a great tool to tell if the patient is in or out of alignment, and it gives us a good reading if there's excessive heat on one side of the neck. It's just really good information to have in an upper cervical office. So across the board, again, in all upper cervical techniques, there is no upper cervical chiropractic technique that pulls, twists, or cracks the neck. It is all very gentle very precise, and very non-invasive. Some people don't even feel the adjustments, it's so light. So if you're in an office where they're twisting and cracking and pulling on the neck, it is definitely not upper cervical chiropractic. There are about 6 or 7 different techniques, and they all adjust the neck a little bit differently. Some are done by hand, others use sound waves to help move the bone, and others use a little tool to click the bone back in place. In our office, the patient is laying on their side. Come around here. We're not going to do an adjustment, but this is what the setup looks like. I would come over here. The table would click up, and I'd be right under the person's ear, setting up like this. I'm never going behind the person's neck and twisting and cracking. That is not upper cervical chiropractic. So usually the patient is laying on their side. There's different head pieces and the different techniques, and it can be done by hand or with instrumentation. But if you are getting your neck cracked, it's not an upper cervical specific adjustment. It's just a regular chiropractic adjustment. Another big part of upper cervical chiropractic is posture analysis. Now, all of the upper cervical chiropractic techniques do not use the posture analysis, but most of them do, and it still is great information to have to see if there's a high hip, high shoulder, or head tilt. Some of the upper cervical techniques even get really fancy. They have lasers that shoot across and very exact measurements to see how high hip is forward or up, rotation of the hips and shoulders. So it's one of the big tools that upper cervical chiropractors use to measure hip height, shoulder height, and head tilt. And in our office, we just have the person stand on our posture analyzer, and I'll just go to the hips, measure this. Good. Shoulders. Good. Good. Now, most of the time, people aren't going to be perfectly balanced when they come into the office. So sometimes a hip will be high, a shoulder will be high, and it might not necessarily mean they need an upper cervical adjustment, but it just gives us good information to see how the patient is doing structurally. One of the most important tools we use as upper cervical chiropractors, and again, this is mostly the same in all the techniques, is some type of imaging. We need to know which way the bones have moved out of place. And when we say the bones have moved out of place, we're talking millimeters, but it's enough pressure to put on the spinal cord and cause symptoms. So there's 3 different ways that you can use imaging. What we use in our office is a 3D CBCT cone beam CAT scan. That is a 3-dimensional image. As you can see here, it puts the person's neck in a 3D image, and we can zoom in, zoom out, and analyze each bone to see what is or isn't out of place. This is pretty much the top of the line imaging quality we have now, and we're very happy to have it in our office. It is not a necessity to have to do the upper cervical work, but it is top of the line imaging quality we have to date that the upper cervical chiropractors have turned to and have started using in their offices. So this is a 3D image, and like I said, which is top of the line. There's also different ways to analyze the films. This is a digital X-ray, which is still phenomenal, and it gives you a lot of great information. It's not 3D, but it's flat, but you can still see which way the bones have rotated and moved out of place. And there are still doctors that use your standard plain films and X-rays. They still give you a lot of good information. The message I want to get across today is that you really need some type of imaging to do this work. I don't think you can do the upper cervical work without it. So if you're in an upper cervical chiropractic office and they say they are not taking X-rays, they don't need them to do your adjustment, all the upper cervical techniques across the board, they get their information and misalignments and listings from some type of X-ray. Now there is one exception. I believe there are a couple QSM3 doctors in the upper cervical world that may or may not be taking X-rays, so that is still a very great technique. That is the only one I know of that there might be a few doctors not using the X-rays, but there still are doctors in that technique using film. So either 3D X-rays are top of the line, Digital x-rays are very good, and even plain films can get you the imaging you need to make a precise, correct upper cervical adjustment. There are about 7 or 8 different upper cervical techniques. The one we use in our office is Blair Upper Cervical Chiropractic. We do the first 2 bones in the neck, and our analysis also helps us go down all the way to C7 if need be, if a person does have a misalignment down there. There's other phenomenal upper cervical techniques such as Nuka Chiropractic, Atlas Orthogonal, Epic Chiropractic, Toggle Recoil, QSM3. There might even be a couple doctors that have been doing it for a long time that aren't affiliated with an upper cervical group, but that's why I made this video, because if they have about 3 out of the 5 tools and everything we described in this video, they are doing the upper cervical work. If they're only using about 1 out of 5, chances are they're just dabbling with it or not doing it at all. So I hope this video found it helpful, and that it gives you the proper information to know whether you are in an upper cervical specific chiropractic office or not. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. You can email us at montclairuppercervical@gmail.com. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram at my name, Kevin Pekka, and here to help. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact us.